Doing well in nonverbal reasoning requires at least two very important skills. One of them is observation, which means an eye for detail, noticing things. And the other is reasoning. You can't really apply the second, reasoning, unless your observation is good. This unit is really about observation. What we're going to do is look at similarities and differences between pictures A and B. A lot of nonverbal, if not all of it, relies on your ability to notice similarities and differences. And, of course, having the language to describe them. So I'm going to use these simple examples just to identify the main features or characteristics of a picture or of a component that you can look for when searching for similarities and differences. Now, as it happens, differences are normally easier to spot, easier to identify than similarities. And there tend to be more of them in general. Let's start with differences between pictures A and B. Shout them out. Okay, I hear you. Well, one of the most obvious differences is that this one is red and this one is blue. So, if you like, one of the differences is color. Now, actually what we're talking about there is the color of the line. So, what I'm going to do is list that as line. And in brackets, the color of it. And I've put a comma because there are other differences there underlined. But before I list those, let's look at some other obvious differences between pictures A and B. Well, this one has no fill, and this one has yellow lines, diagonal yellow lines. So there clearly is a difference in fill. So that's one of the very first things you tend to notice about pictures is any difference in fill. Another difference which you will have no doubt noticed is size. This square is bigger than this one. So size, very common one. And there's one more which sometimes gets forgotten. But I'm sure you will have got it, and that is location. Location is where something is. And within the box, this is towards the top left corner, whereas this one is more or less central in the box. So it's in a different location. Now, another word you can use for location is place, and that's probably just as good. But don't use position. Don't use position because position is ambiguous. Position could mean where it is, or it could mean which way up it is. So because position doesn't have a clear meaning, better not to use it. Use location or place. So here we have then the main differences between pictures A and B. Now let's go back to line, because the line differences were more than just the color of the line. So I'm sure you've noticed that this line is a dashed line, whereas this is an unbroken or continuous line. So we call that line style. So whether it's a dashed line, a dotted line, a wavy line, a zigzag line, we call that line style. So that's a difference. And one more thing, this line is thinner than that. So we can call it thickness, or in the case of a line, you can call it bolding. But be careful, that's B-O-L-D-I-N-G, bolding, or thickness. So because these pictures are very simple, there are only those differences between them. Now let's look at some similarities between these two pictures. Generally, the list is shorter than the differences. Well, you can probably identify a couple. One of them is the fact that that is a square and this is a square. So that comes under the category of shape. So similarities are right in a different color. Similarities shape. After that, it's a bit difficult to really pinpoint what else is similar. But there are two other things which you should observe that are similar. One of them is the fact that the squares are the same way up. Now, obviously, if you rotate a square 90 degrees, it's going to look the same as if it has not rotated because it has rotational symmetry. But unless there's a reason to, you must assume that it hasn't rotated. Sometimes you will have a reason to, but until you do, if it's the same way up, say so. So we can call that rotation. Or you could call it orientation, which are both indicators of which way up it is. And I said there's one more. So what is that other one more? Well, I just gave you a clue. The fact that there is only the one square here and there is only the one square here. So one shape, one shape. So we can call that amount. They have the same quantity or amount. So amount, equally well, you can call it quantity. Or if you want to put it in a phrase, it's how many. And these are some of the main features or characteristics of a picture that can be similar or different from another picture. Now, this list is not comprehensive because these pictures are very simple. But just to point out that noticing similarities and differences, and sometimes the most obvious things like this one about there being one of each shape, them being the same way up, they tend to get missed sometimes, but you have to notice that. So that is similarities and differences.